welcome to my site, Paris If You Please. I've decided to do something that I've never done before and make a video of my latest article. I was thinking that I might do one about the site, explaining it, but then I thought, no, I'll launch straight in, no preparation, and try and possibly satisfy some of those people who would prefer to listen to something rather than read. Well, you're going to get the best of both worlds. You can read the article possibly in this video, at least see the pictures as I talk about it, and you've also got the added benefit that you don't actually see me on camera. Well, it's a review of an interesting little book called Mademoiselle London Loves Paris, in brackets, quelquefois, in brackets again, sometimes. Why do I call it an interesting little book? Well, I'm going to try and chug through the article that I wrote at the same time as talking about it, so that'll inspire me. You can see that it's got a great little, very simple and straightforward and clean looking cover, which is immediately attractive. Lovely big red heart in the middle and a bit of old sticky tape which covers up don't know what and says London on it. We're immediately intrigued as to why Mademoiselle London only sometimes or quelquefois loves Paris, and we'll find out as we go through the book. The book is supposed to be half pictures, half poetry, or some sort of poetry. Well, let me tell you what the ladies have at the end of some of their emails. It's the frank, seeing as it's from Frankie and Katja, it's the frank little art and poetry without the wank signing off line. They don't always have it, but there it is in black and white, and jolly good it is to see too. That's what we want, less wank, that's what I say. And so why is there less wank in this thing? Well, it depends how you take it, doesn't it? I think what they mean here is no messing about, no beating around the bush. They're going to tell it like it is. And as you might realise as we go through the book, you'll see that London girls do things a little bit differently to French ones. Although there has been quite a bit of noise being made in the French press about this actually being quite a lot about what the French girls actually think, but would never be able to say so. So that's pretty interesting. Let me just chug through this. This must be a pretty boring screen to look at. Here we go. There's some pictures from the book. You can see it's beautifully illustrated with these line drawings which have been coloured in. Lovely style there. That's coming from Frankie, the artist. And there you go. This I recognise. This, it says alcohol and stranger wines, and I think it means foreign wines, and I recognise that from a place up near Montmartre, I think it is, but maybe on Rue Le Pic, where this is actually, you see it's the side of one of those little grocery stores where they've translated that wrongly. It's in red, I think, originally. And okay, so she's taken that. Now you can see here there's quite a lot of diversity in how they present it, and to be honest, each page you open it up is a different experience, a different thing. Often it's playing on the language and the problems they have with it. This page looks like it is looking at the endings of words and all the weirdness, and how sometimes you can tell what gender a word is by its ending, and sometimes you absolutely can't. And then the snippets of poetry that I've included as well. This isn't really representative of the poetry, because that's a little snippet I found at the top of a page somewhere. If you look at it, you can see that the poetry is more along the lines of this. You know, proper stuff, pages full of it. And another interesting feature of Mademoiselle Loves London, or sorry, Paris sometimes, or Hearts Paris, is that they have everything translated into French. I suppose it's translated into French and not translated into English, and they've done a pretty good job of it, to the extent of quite clearly translating word for word, so that some of it, in the eyes of someone like myself who's been here for ages, can see that you certainly wouldn't translate it in the way they have into French if you were trying to get the meaning across as opposed to the actual the words. But what they've done is literally translated word for word, more or less, and that gives it a pretty unique feel. Let me say what this says. It says, if you've spent your youth drinking cheap cider at North London bus stops, it makes it hard to drink politely. That's kind of the essence of this book. There it is, translated into French. Look, it's a couple of London girls, or they've taken their experiences of London, a couple of London girls in Paris, and created this character called Mademoiselle London. But obviously a lot of, if not everything that comes out here is from them, despite the fact they've created this character. And I remember sitting at North London bus stops, actually. I won't go into too many details on the old cider front, but I've drunk cheap cider in my time, and to be honest, this book really gets under the skin quite deeply of the basic fundamental differences and occasional bodily needs of English girls, in this case, in comparison to French ones. And they go into some detail on it, and it's kind of a third funny, I would say, and for me, 2/3 not so funny as wry. I'm not going to say it's sad or miserable. It's absolutely not. I think I mentioned the word melancholy in the review. I'm not sure, but although a lot of the publicity this book's been getting is because they don't beat around the bush, in fact, there's rather, there's a bit of pathos I'm feeling here for some of the stuff they come out with, and yeah, I'd say literally it's 2/3 more deeper stuff really than just using the odd swear word here and there. Here's a little poem which I copied out here. I'll read it for you. "You are too loud for Paris, Mademoiselle London," said the little lapin chaud, as he sat at the bar, sipping his piss-poor demi, sneaking peeks at himself in the mottled mirror behind the dusty liquors that no one drinks, fluffing his fur and looking over his shoulder to see what new meat had been delivered on the tourist truck. So that's a little bit about how they feel about being London girls in Paris. And whilst they deride themselves slightly, and perhaps all English girls in some of their basic ways of drinking, which I certainly can identify with, they're not too gentle on your average French guy either, and that poem was an example of that. There's the end of the review. Again, these lovely little pictures. You see that one there, little toenails with a painted toenails with a plaster on the big toe there, next to a lovely picture of Paris. Very touching, almost. I hope they don't feel insulted by me calling their book touching, ladies. Frankie, catch ya. But I'm afraid, call it the big soppy poet in me, but there you go. I was touched as much as anything else by this book, although they do have a wicked sense of humour as well. And having met them for a forthcoming interview, I know that they've put their hearts and souls into this book, but they're not going around moping, and they're having a great time here. And boy, they know how to throw a party, which I have managed to miss every one of so far, so I'm looking out for the next one there. Yeah, just the last thing I say here is that although French girls aren't necessarily throwing up all over the pavement and such like, at least not in public, there is a kind of change in the wind, as it were, in Paris. And I do mention a French magazine which is called Cosette, which is worth looking at if you are in town. It's a kind of new feminist magazine, not too feminist, but not thinking that women's one goal in life is to make their men happy. Right, well, I'll leave it at that, and I definitely recommend you have a look at it. See you next time. Bye bye.
I put a spell on you.